PMC Bank depositors gather to protest before Mumbai's the RBI office in Mumbai. It's been 25 days of restrictions on cash withdrawals for them, and they're upset as there are no assurances from the bank, from the Reserve Bank, or from anyone in the government that their hard-earned money is safe and will be eventually returned to them.
After protesting for 25 days at various places, desperate depositors of the scam-hit Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank now knocking on the doors of the Reserve Bank of India for a response. They held a protest outside the RBI headquarters in South Mumbai today, with neither the RBI nor the government giving any assurances to these depositors. They are upset and demanding justice.
ऐसा नहीं होगा तो आप अपने आप समझ सकते हैं कि क्या-क्या परेशानी हो सकती है। अब इतने दिनों से हम लोग सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं जैसे तैसे करके, अब लेकिन हमारे बच्चे को भी सड़क पे आना पड़ रहा है क्योंकि इसकी फीस के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। इसकी क्लासेस छुड़वा दी है अभी क्योंकि एक्स्ट्रा 6000 रुपए महीने का जा रहा है, तो हम लोग को अफोर्ड नहीं कर पा रहे अभी।
मेरे बच्चे तो बोल रहे हैं हम जो तो करके यहाँ से देश से चले जाएंगे, हमको नहीं रहना यहाँ पे, नहीं रहना यहाँ पे, कोई सिस्टम काम नहीं करता है। आपकी मेहनत की कमाई पूरी पानी में चली गई है, हमको नहीं रहना है। हम जो तो करके बाहर हमाली कर लेंगे, लेकिन यहाँ पे नहीं रहेंगे because people are losing faith in the system.
3 PMC Bank depositors have died in the last 20 days, crushed by the loss of their lifetime savings. Even today, a senior citizen fell ill during the protest and had to leave for treatment. Many of these protesters were hoping that Prime Minister Modi would speak for them when he was in Mumbai for a rally, but that didn't happen.
हमारा कोई सुन नहीं रहा है, कोई पॉलिटिशियन है वो नहीं सुन रहा है। प्रधानमंत्री यहाँ पे आए थे, बॉम्बे में 3 दिन रह के गए हैं, लेकिन कोई हमारी सुनने नहीं आया। मनमोहन सिंह है, वो दिल्ली से हमारी बात सुनने को आए हैं, लेकिन जो हमारे देश का प्रधानमंत्री है मिस्टर मोदी, वो हमारी बात सुनने को नहीं आया।
उनके जो भी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स आते हैं टॉक शोज में, वो कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट की बात करते हैं। आरबीआई पे कोई कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट नहीं है। गवर्नर को एक स्टेटमेंट देनी चाहिए कि ये मेहनत की सेविंग्स है लोगों की, उनकी पूंजी उनको मिलेगी थोड़ा समय, ना ही ये एक भी डेथ ना होती अगर वो सही समय पे एक करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट देते।
This is the first time that people in huge number are present right outside the RBI office that is right behind me, as you could see. So people are asking for assurance. They were expecting some relief would be declared by the government itself, by the Prime Minister, who was present for a political rally in Mumbai, but nothing happened, after which people are protesting with hoardings and banner right outside the RBI office. In Mumbai, Swat Mishra, NDTV.
So, as depositors, we assume that any entity that's allowed to operate as a bank is not engaging in large-scale fraud, right? So, how did a scam of this magnitude happen? Is there a high-level accountability needed at the level of the RBI or of the Finance Ministry? What are the lessons to be learned from this scam? Let's go across to, we have Nasir Salim, Managing Partner of Flexi Capital. He has over a decade of experience in banking. Sanjay Jha, the spokesperson, national spokesperson for the Congress. Vivek Reddy of the BJP, and Bernard Pereira, a PMC depositor, joining us. Bernard, I want to start with you. When the top court declined to hear the plea on the PMC Bank, at that point of time, the centre told the court that prompt action has been taken by the ED, that the government shares the depositors' concerns, that the RBI is also claiming with the latest relaxation, 77% of depositors can withdraw their entire balance. Your response?
See, I do agree that there has been some action with regards to arrests, with regards to attaching properties, but we've seen this in the past and we know how long it takes to actually bear fruit for the depositors. No matter what action you take, how can you give justice to those 4 families who lost their loved ones? I mean, these are desperate times. People are needing money for heart surgery. They have their entire life savings. We had someone who has a special kid and who was under so much of stress. And it's not just them. All of us are really, really worried, and we do not know what the future holds for us. So unless there is a sure assurance that our money is safe, that we can access our funds, wishy-washy statements that you will get your money without any timelines doesn't make sense for us.
All right, Nasir, where are the checks and balances in our system? Are there? Because it's the RBI that hands out bank licenses. It regulates or does the regulation of the functioning of banks. But in this case, the scam was not unearthed by the RBI, not because of RBI regulation for sure. It was a whistleblower who went to the RBI, and now they're saying it's an eye-opener. Where are the checks and balances? What is the RBI's job? Who is doing that?
You see, Sarah, I'll tell you clearly, I think as far as the RBI is concerned, there's been a big slip up in terms of auditing. But I think the bigger challenge and the core issue that needs to be addressed, and we had a discussion sometime last week as well on your show, is that, these cooperative banks, especially this particular one, has jointly, the regulation is jointly between the RBI and the state. And that is the biggest challenge, right? The impact of RBI is very limited here. It's unfortunate that, RBI today now has to come up and ensure that they come in place of all the depositors and address their issues. But the fact of the matter is RBI was not given enough to do here much in time, because monies were given out in large chunks of money to a large group called HDIL, which you know of. And obviously, if it was purely an RBI institution audited firm, then we would not have faced such a big fraud. Because I must tell you again, please check history. Historically, never a scheduled commercial bank has ever defaulted, ever, right? And each time we've always seen that any of frauds such as those have always been found out by the RBI.
No,
So
but I just want to put this in perspective. Unfair to say it's only cooperative banks. Let's also put this in perspective. Large-scale private sector banks also scandal-prone. The Yes Bank, its share has fallen 90%. Former head of Axis Bank, she had to go because of her shoddy record. Chanda Kochar, head of ICICI Bank, had to resign because of revelations of giving dubious loans.
So Sarah, here's my point.
So it's not only...
So Sarah...
Okay, go ahead.
So Sarah, here's my point. My point is very simple. Look, as far as those banks you mentioned about Yes, you mentioned some of the other names, including ICICI, but most of those banks, loans that were given out became bad because of non-performing assets, but they were not fraudulently done. In this particular case, we've seen a lot of money which has been fraudulently siphoned off in shell companies and therefore have turned NPA, so-called NPA. But the intention was to cheat and deceit all depositors' money from PMC Bank, which is a clear intention issue. As far as the other banks are concerned, we've seen NPAs, we've seen issues which have become bad. Loans have become bad on account of NPA and on account of poor performance. So you can't mix the two, I'm afraid. But having said that, clearly RBI needs to be made more accountable. They need to ensure, we need to have a separate legislation or a separate
Okay, so you're saying RBI does need to be made more accountable. Vivek Reddy, please come in here. In August, the RBI released its annual report in which it said that the number of cases of frauds reported by banks has increased by 15% in 2018-2019.
Well, Sarah, I think one thing that we must keep in perspective while addressing PMC issue is a different scenario that has emerged. RBI had tagged this bank in 2016 and asked certain reports from this bank. At that point of time, the PMC Bank has suppressed material, has created 45 dummy accounts and has produced its audited reports. So this falsification of accounts, as was stated earlier by our previous
audits have to be checked by the RBI
this falsification of accounts and fraud. Yes, I think that is where the RBI must now get up. It must ensure that these reports are not accepted on the basis of what it proclaims to say.
Forward,
they will have to now
who's going to
have
respond
different
to the
protocols.
depositors now?
They should have a different framework in addressing this issue. Yes,
because the auditors, the Reserve Bank of India sends these auditors to check the audits, right? So the blame lies then, would you agree, at the RBI? Okay. Let me ask you, the BJP keeps talking about telephone banking under the Congress. But Mr. Reddy, no bank collapsed under the Congress.
The auditors who supplied this report to their...
There are rumors about another larger private sector bank too. Mr. Reddy, the questions to you.
Yes, Sarah, tell me.
My question to you was that...
Sarah, the point is this, the whole issue regarding the collapse of the banks. The whole issue regarding collapse of the banks, particularly these PMC and other banks, I think one issue that we have to look at is, PMC Bank has several assets that have been diverted. Now these assets have to be recovered, the process has to go through, and that's how we can keep the depositors satisfied, by ensuring that the money recovered from the assets are repaid to the depositors. This is how this must be gone through now. The issue is that even if the RBI had called the fraud of the bank, perhaps about 2 years earlier, perhaps a year earlier, the fraud had already taken place to a great extent. Now this had to be sorted out, the unholy practices of the banks. This is where the problem lies. The unholy practices of the
all right,
banks
let's look
had
at the
to be nipped
future.
in the
Let's
bud.
see, the scam
Now
has
the
gone.
RBI has
I
gathered
want
up,
to agree with you,
and I hope,
Sanjay Jha.
we solve
Going
the
forward,
situation.
should the government have ensured at least that the depositors have access to their funds to preserve confidence in the banking system? Because now, honestly, many people are just worried about, could our banks be next? But in this case, should the government have allowed, either the RBI or the government have allowed the depositors to take the hit?
Sarah, is that a question to me?
Yes.
Well, Sarah, let me tell you, I think I was hearing the BJP spokesperson. I mean, this is the wrong time to indulge in all these hollow platitudes in terms of due processes and diligence, etc. But firstly, I tend to disagree with Nasir today. Nasir tended to, basically insinuate that all the big willful defaulters are just businesses having gone wrong. That's not true. Dr. Raghunam Rajan has given a list to the Prime Minister's office of the biggest willful defaulters, by the way, who are probably having a disproportionate share of the overall stress assets that have gone bust now. So I don't think that's true, number one. Number two, otherwise a Nirav Modi or a Mehul Choksi or a Vijay Mallya or a Jatin Mehta would have never happened. This swindled the banking system. As far as the PMC Bank is concerned, Sarah, let's bite the bullet here. I'm hearing too much of this airy-fairy, namby-pamby stuff here on your show. This is a state-sponsored crime. If a cooperative bank, which is managed both by the Cooperatives Act and by the RBI, where an ordinary individual has every right to believe that it's going to be legitimately protected. When you hear cases of people dying because they can't use their funds in a medical emergency, that is like a state-sponsored crime. I mean, there's a person dying, his life's hard-earned savings are there. There is a Sanjay Gulati who had a heart attack. I mean, what are we talking about? And Mr. Reddy should own up here on the channel. There is a political intervention here. There are BJP's very senior people who are directors on the board of this. And there's a large real estate company that created 21,000 shell accounts and walked away with 78% of the loan advances. That is a blatant fraud. The RBI is guilty, the state government is guilty,
Sanjay left.
and I think
Vivek Reddy,
they
please
need to be hauled
respond
up.
quickly. I want to get a last word from Nasir because I think the public wants to know more about what we should learn from this. But quick response, please.
Yes, I have two responses, Sarah. First of all, to the larger issue pertaining to the NPAs. I think from 2008, 2009, it is the UPA2 which has literally held on to these NPAs without exposing it. They simply fabricated the books of accounts and ensured that there were no NPAs. These companies which have today got mountainous debts, I think these companies should have been called the fraud. Then in 2008, the UPA2 simply slept over it. It was in a comatose situation. So therefore, please don't blame the NDA for this. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code today is the way out to ensure that these NPA assets are closed and the monies are realized. This is number one. The second issue is regarding PMC Bank. I think we have arrested the people there. They are being brought to account. All the assets are being seized under the Depositors Act. Once we seize the assets, we will be able to realize these assets. Mr. Devendra Fadnavis has also talked about today at about 6 p.m. He has talked about how we could merge this bank into another bank and ensure that the depositors get back their money. Well, all these options are being explored. I think surely we will have a
But I think
depositors
like Bernard Pereira want to know why and how we got here in the first place, not about which options are being explored. Bernard, I'm out of time. I want to give the last word to Bernard. Bernard, there are so many viewers who are watching and saying, oh my God, this could have been one of us. So Bernard, last word to Bernard, please. Bernard, what are the lessons the Aam Aadmi should take away from this? Because I know I've gotten this WhatsApp forward and normally I just delete all of them, I abhor them. But it said that only 1 lakh rupees in any bank account, not a cooperative, in any bank account is insured. These are things that, I don't think most of us knew. We weren't aware of it. What are the lessons we should take away from this? What have you learned?
See, when we look at a bank, it is based on trust. Be it trust, whatever is put in the bank is safe. When we had demonetization, we had Digital India, the push was to go into online banking, into the formal banking sector. Today, we have people who have embraced that with done accounts, and today they are on the road. I mean, they're literally on the streets for the past so many days. I mean, why do you force people to get into the formal banking sector when you can't save them? Then you are accountable entirely. And please stop this political ping pong of Congress and BJP. We don't care. We don't want to hear a word on those lines. You all are completely insensitive to what the common man is going through. Okay, you can do your bickering and your blame game behind the scenes, arrest whomever you want. We have seen the NSCL case. We have seen the Vijay Mallya case. It takes donkeys years to even dispose of one single aircraft. And you're talking about us waiting and getting our money back. If you look at mergers, banks have been merged in the past.
Yes.
Do you know how long it takes for depositors to get their money back? Do you think it's so simple?
A merger is a solution. Bernard, you've said it very well. I think we can end on that. A politician, a banker nexus, poor corporate governance, a slackness on part of watchdogs. These are just some of the pressing issues the banking sector must address. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, all our guests. Good night.